Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Email Beyond Revenue. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Piyush Jain, who is the founder and CEO of Loop Subscriptions. Loop does subscriptions for Shopify brands, and today he's going to present one highly actionable, practical strategy for all brands on D2C to help with their retention marketing. So without further ado, Piyush, what are you going to talk to us about today? Please take it away.
Thanks, Adam, for hosting me. So today, I want to talk about. I want to make a bold statement that the upcoming order email can help brands improve their subscription business by 10 to 20%. And how we can do it, so I'm going to get into that. But what's your sense? Like, do you think this makes sense, or there's like a high number, low number?
Yeah, I think based on my experience working with people, the immediate focus when you hear subscriptions is just first to second order. Oh, they're not using the product. They've got too much of it. That's what we need to fix. So I don't hear anyone flag this during onboarding or discovery process.
Got it. So let me share my screen and let me walk you through what we are saying. Um, Let me know if my screen is up.
We're good.
All right. So Adam, this is one of our brands. Generally, everyone looks at cancellations, and that at which, or most of the customers look at cancellation, that after which order customer is dropping off, and brands obsess over cancellation rates and so on and so forth, right? So there's a good thing to obsess over cancellation rate, but there is one more metric that brands should look at, and that is, we call, what percentage of the business is getting skipped, what percentage of the business getting rescheduled. So there's a dashboard which tells brands that for specifically for this particular brand, they had 34,000 orders which were scheduled in the last 30 days. And of these 34,000, brand only 68%, 68.9% of those orders were attempted. It means 30% of the revenue was essentially missed out even before the payment was attempted. And if you see, that revenue was skips was about 15% and rescheduled was about 7%. So this is 15 and 7, this is close to about 22%. And then the cancellation is there, of course, which is about 8.96%. So the point that I'm trying to make is, for brands, while they're looking at cancellations, they also need to start looking at business loss, which is happening via skips and reschedules. And most of these skips, reschedules, and even cancellations, all of this happens after the upcoming order email is sent. So if that email can be made much more engaging, then these numbers drop significantly. So while this data is for one particular brand, I also sort of took this we when we were building these dashboards. So this was the analysis that we had done at a platform level. So even here, if you see, this is at a platform level. This number is a little lower, 13.51%, but the concept and cancellation is also about 6.5%. But the point is same, that skips and reschedules are leading to high business loss compared to cancel orders. So this is the insight that we have unlocked. I also want to talk a little bit more about how we help in improving these numbers. But if you have any questions, I'd like to sort of, does it make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. But just to clarify for the terminology for people maybe not familiar with subscriptions, when you say skipped or reschedules, can you just elaborate on what you mean exactly from the customer's perspective?
Absolutely. So when customers customers have their orders scheduled, then customers can choose to either cancel their upcoming order, or they can just skip a delivery, or they can reschedule a delivery. They can push that delivery forward.
Got it.
So the customers is not billed, and whatever was the forecast of that month, then customer, like the brand, do not realize that revenue.
Correct. So it's still a massive amount of lost revenue, even though it's not a direct cancellation. Obviously, we want to find ways to still keep this revenue in the business and the forecast.
Yeah. Like, and this is just like how cancellation can be impacted, right? So similar to that, skips can also be impacted. So even like when we start to look at more data, what we start to realize is that after skips are generally consistent at they're generally independent of order number. So cancellations have this trend line where cancellations will reduce as the number of orders increase, but that does not happen in skips. Even at a platform level, we are seeing the same trend that first order skip, second order skip, third order skip, they would invariably be within the same sort of ballpark, which is very different behavior compared to the cancellations.
Yep, understood. Okay, now show us what to do about it. We understand there's a lot of leverage tied up in this. I'm excited to see the actual practical strategies.
Absolutely. So again, whatever we a thesis is around engagement, that as much as we can engage with the customers, better it would be, and they would sort of the more revenue we can sort of expect from them. So this is one of the brands, Four Sigmatic. Uh, what they do a lot of interesting things for their customers in terms of higher rewards on the future order, gifts which customers need to add, and so on and so forth. We started, so this banner had really helped in reducing churn on the customer portal. So we took it, what we started to sort of do is this banner now can be embedded into the upcoming order email. So now customers, when they receive an upcoming order email, they upfront see that there are rewards that they can expect, or there is some incentive that they're going to get in the next order. Then that sort of helps them reduce friction. That helps them it basically reduces skip rate as well. So we implemented the strategy for cancellation on the portal, but when we implemented this on the email side, we started to see that it led to reduction in skips. Same thing, we did this for another brand. It's called Osia, where even if the customers do not have immediate reward on the next order, brands can still talk about things like that, hey, you're just 2 orders away from a free gift, and communicating this very, very prominently in the upcoming order email. And when these communication go, then customers are sort of engaged and they have something that they can look forward to, and it just helps in reducing skips.
Yep,
And
I
yeah,
love how you've baked in, like, gamified the upcoming order process so that you get that immediate gratification of seeing something. Because
yeah,
I think if you look at a lot of the reasons that people churn, let's say, for example, you're a consumable based brand, a lot of the time, right, we see it's because people have too much of the product. But what I like about this strategy is that I think mentally you can justify, well, I can just accumulate more because I know I'm going to use it, because I don't want to miss out on the gift or this reward that's upcoming. So I think it's really smart.
yeah, yeah. And then the idea is that what are the other what are the other things that we can bake into the customer portal and the upcoming order email to keep the subscriber engaged. So another thing, so based on this, then we have sort of taken a lot of steps. So again, uh, a lot of these brands would also have loyalty that they would also be using, but subscriptions and loyalty do not generally sort of integrate. Brands look at it in different ways. What if there could be a system where even the upcoming order email talks about this, that hey, you have these many loyalty points and you can directly redeem these points with your future order. It's a very small thing, but what it would do is, it would, to your point, it would give immediate gratification to the customers, and less cancellation and less skips.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, you don't see many brands who have subscription platforms, programs, sorry, actually tie in the loyalty and rewards. So I think this is something that we've seen a lot of our clients and just merchants who we speak to struggle to synchronize all the various programs and integrations into the CRM system
Yeah,
and
yeah,
make them speak to each other and cohesive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we have like data for all of this as well. So for Four Sigmatic, we actually recently published a case study around this. These guys saw, and these are public numbers, 25% reduction in drop-offs. OCR, 60% reduction in drop off just by doing these things.
Wow. So it definitely is high of an ROI activity to just put some time into thinking into like these tiered sequential rewards based on first to second, third, fourth, etc.
Yeah. And then we are taking it to the we are doing a closed beta on like a really cool feature right now, because now we are starting to see that this gamification and engagement is working. So now we are starting to do beta of this feature where if customers completes the first 3 orders in 3 months, then they immediately unlock an additional reward.
Yeah, love it.
So I again, so no rocket science here. Idea is just like, keep the subscribers engaged and like, make subscriptions interesting for them. So yeah.
I think this could be an especially important one, at least from my experience. Sometimes we'll work with some brands, and I'm sure you see the same, who offer a huge incentive off the first order, for example, 50%, just to get people onto the subscription. But the downside to that is obviously they're seeing a massive drop off by the second order as the price goes up to 100%. So I think this is some good way to overcome that pricing friction as well and incentivize people to keep the subscription.
So Adam, I am actually going to, this is a very good point that you talked about. So I am going to pull up my screen again, and I'm going to give you a very like same problem statement. So this is a brand, Good Protein. They migrated to us about a year back, and these guys had they grew, by the way, after migrating, they grew about 400% in, I think, 2 quarters. So they were at about 5,000-6,000 subscribers, and they crossed 20,000 subscribers. And there's again a public case study on our website. They do exactly the same thing that you're saying. 40% off on the first order, but then they reduce the discount on the second order. Now, invariably, you would think that this would lead to higher churn. You are right. If there is no action which is taken, then the churn will be very, very high on the second order. But what if on the second order, there is a gamification which is built in and which again sort of talks about that, hey, on the second order, you're going to get this specific, specific gift. On the fourth order, you're going to get a specific gift. So brands can do, and they can keep on communicating those rewards to the customers. If they can communicate these rewards to the customers very, very proactively, it increases the subscriber take rate on the first order. So if I refresh this page, most likely I think these guys will have subscriptions selected by default. Or they don't have. So right now they've sort of changed it, but they can even have the subscription selected by default. It will lead to higher churn, of course, but then there are ways to counter that churn by building in gamification in the upcoming order.
Yeah, sounds great. And I think you have to include, at least from my perspective, what's to stop someone, right? Just going back and gamifying the first order discount if you don't include this type of incentive. I think that's one of the downsides of including a massive discount for the first order. You're sort of conditioning customers to just go, okay, I'll just create another email address and then take advantage of the account anyway. So I like that this gives people a reason to actually keep the subscription ongoing.
Yeah. So, I mean, brands can, like, generally we have seen that 20-25% is, the 40% is of course on the higher side, but 20-25% is where brands go. One interesting thing that we've started seeing what brands do, and this has like really helped them improve their take rate, is they've started doing gift along with the first order, and they are including the price of the gift in the percentage. So, for example, they would give 15% discount on the subscription, but they would also include, and let's say they're giving a jar or a product which is priced at $15 or $20, they would also gift in the first order. Then they would also include, they would factor in that additional $15, and they would communicate on the widget that we are giving you much higher discount.
Yeah, understood. Yep, smart way to protect the margin.
Yeah. So one of our brands actually did this, and it's a European brand, and we're going to be sort of talking about it publicly soon. From about 20-25% take rate, they went to 70% take rate with this just one small change.
Wow, it's a huge increase.
Huge. And that brand is now going to go, we've been sort of discussing this, they want to go all in on subscription because, of course, subscriber LTV is higher. So they would want to go all in on subscription, that if they've been able to take 70% take rate, and they're able to sort of reduce the churn on the upcoming orders, etc., then more subscribers they can get into the program, then the overall revenue of the brand just goes through the roof.
I think that's another topic we need to have you back on to discuss sometimes. When is a good time to actually just turn off the option to buy once opposed to just going all in on subscriptions? Because I've spoke to one of my friends on this who works exclusively with subscription brands, and I know that's one of his strategies for a lot of his clients is to actually just stop the ability to buy something once and just, wouldn't say force people onto a subscription, but just give them one option and then put all your eggs into the basket and optimize around the subscription program. Because I don't think no one's going to solve that massive drop-off rate for conventional D2C if, around 40 to 70% of customers, even if you have a good repurchase rate, coming back to buy again. I mean, that's just how the data flows in that space. So it makes a lot of sense from the unit economic standpoint of just doubling down on subscriptions if you're a consumable based brand, for example.
Absolutely. And we are actually seeing some of the brands moving into this direction. So for example, the True Heights brand that I showed you, they've just recently gone all in on subscriptions. And then there are 2-3 more brands which are sort of starting to discuss, and these are brands which are 8 figures in subscription run rate, and they have a decent one-time business as well. But I think from a cost economics point of view and from a profitability point of view, going all in on subscription makes decent sense.
Absolutely. I think there's another discussion within there again on the credibility of the D2C model as it exists today with one-time purchases and whether this is a truly sustainable play compared to subscription model, which obviously the option's not available to all brands, as we know, right? I think you've seen over the last few years where you had apparel brands try and make, subscriptions for short. So it's got to work and it's got to come natively to the brands. But I think for those that it does, especially when they're consumable by nature, I would go as far to say I would just go all in on subscriptions as opposed to focusing on, giving people the option one time versus not, because the unit economics of the business model for one-time purchases is just becoming increasingly hard to justify these days.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why we are seeing brands moving in that direction. But these are like really big calls to take from a business point of view, because
absolutely.
We actually have another brand, and this is, again, these are like public. This is a brand called Primal Queen, and those guys started with us. They migrated when they were at about 1.5 to 2 million annual revenue. They scaled to 70 million annual run rate in about year's time, little over a year time, like 14 months of time frame, and 92% of their business is subscription. And the founder is he shares his numbers publicly on Twitter.
That's amazing.
They've got, it's not very stance approach, but what they've done is a very smart thing, that they will have one time, but subscription offering is much more stronger than one time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. I want to give you a quick few seconds or a minute to just explain, because I know we are dealing in an incredibly competitive space in the subscription arena. And a lot of brands will be using some of the legacy providers, but I've been working with you for 3-4 years, close to now, and we're huge advocates for Loop. But I know that there's a huge amount of friction that comes from switching. So I just want to give you an opportunity to pitch to the audience. Why would someone migrate across to Loop? Because this is a big, daunting business decision, but maybe you could alleviate some of those concerns, and just feel free to take it from here.
Sure. So I think migration, so we've done close to about 600 migrations now, and zero data loss migration. We have not faced problems in migrations at all, and we have migrated brands who are doing north of 75 million GMV on subscription.
So clear cost savings, zero data lost, increased ROI from better customer service and better strategy. Sounds like a no-brainer to me.